The Icons of Real Estate Podcast. Are you ready to learn the proven money-making secrets from top-producing Icon agents? Ready to skyrocket your business? This podcast is for you. Tune in every week and find out how to implement proven strategies to 10 times your business. From $3 million to $30 million in just 12 months. Brought to you by the Masters in Real Estate Marketing, Arter SEO.
Welcome to the Icons of Real Estate. I'm Tim Calloway. We have a very special guest today from the Space Coast of Florida. Shane Burgman from Carpenter Kessel with the Burgman Group. How are you, Shane?
I'm doing well, man. Thank you for taking the time to chat with me today.
Yeah, no worries. You know, I think I just about talked to fellow Floridians as much as I could, man, because you got plenty of people moving here, and it's a great state, and we welcome all. So why don't we just start from the beginning? You know, how'd you get started in real estate? You know, what's your background? I know I did a little due diligence, Shane. I know you have a military background. Thank you for your service. So why don't you tell us how you got started?
Yeah, I mean it's a long story. I'll try and summarize it for anyone that's watching or listening. But like you had mentioned, so I did 10 years in the military, specifically in the Navy, specifically a missile technician on nuclear submarines. So as you can imagine, a completely different kind of like world than most any other occupation. Real estate is also completely different than what I did before. But military for me was a transition directly out of school. I grew up in Tucson, Arizona, tried to go the college route, and then education. I was at that point in my life just wasn't prepared for it. So ended up going the military route, and I've been on the East Coast ever since. This was back in 2006 is when I joined the military. So I was on the East Coast for my entire Navy career, and had the opportunity to live in Connecticut, and I was in Virginia, Jacksonville, Georgia, and then ultimately ended up down in Cape Canaveral, which there's a small, very unique and specialized Navy installation that operates out of there. And my last tour of duty was out of Cape Canaveral, which is how I ended up on the Space Coast, because I was active duty here for a bit. And then got to a point in my military career where I looked at it, and I was 10 years, right? So halfway to retirement. And I really had to make a decision if I was going to go forward and make a career out of it and retire when I was 39, or completely leave the military behind and go a separate direction. So at that stage, I had looked at what I was doing in the military and decided that if I was going to do more time, I wanted to do something different than submarines. And so to me, it was what I view and still view as probably the coolest part of the military, and that's aviation sector. So I wanted to go be a pilot, and spent about 6 to 7 months interviewing with Embry-Riddle and, you know, learning everything I could about the whole aviation side of things when I was so used to the exact opposite spectrum in the military. Tried to make that route from being an enlisted active duty, you know, service member to the commissioned world, and just ultimately didn't work out. Odds were very low and stacked against me, but I knew, like, putting my best foot forward in the event I got selected, I would be thrilled and it'd be great. I'd do 20, 30 years in the military. If I didn't, I knew that at least I put all of my effort into doing something that I would have been extremely just grateful and proud to do in the military. But since I did not get selected for it, I was completely at ease knowing that I made the right choice. And then at that point, I knew I was going to get out of the military, and I still had some time left in my contract within the military. So I started kind of looking for jobs to do, and mainly, like, so people that are in the military, generally when they get out, if they don't retire or if they pick up another job, they kind of work in like the same sector or in the same field that they did in the military. And guys that work in submarines were no different, and probably even more critical to the point where there's just not a lot of people that work in submarines. So all of the contractors that do anything for the Navy submarines, like, we're at a very high demand for that from a civilian standpoint. So even before transitioning out of the military, I had several job opportunities to be a government contractor, doing a lot of the same things I did as a missile technician in the Navy. But now I was, instead of the Navy being my boss, it was a government contractor. It sounded appealing. You know, the pay was a bump in what I was getting. Wasn't like my deployed schedule was going to be different. And there were some other nuances to it where it seemed appealing, but ultimately I would still be deployed. I would still be working pretty close hours to what I was working in the military, and ultimately doing like the same thing, just
Right.
not. And so I had to make a really conscious decision to say, you know what, I want to do something completely different and completely outside of what I've been doing for the last decade. And it just so happened that at the time I had a friend that she had a Remax brokerage, and she kind of like recruited me, but it was like, hey, if you're getting out of the military, you might want to try real estate. And I had never thought about it before. You know, I have an uncle that sells real estate in Tucson, Arizona, has been doing it forever. So he was one of the first guys that I called, like, say, hey, is this like a job, you know, I should do? And he was totally supportive of it, said, you know, you'd be great at it.
Right.
Every male, like I have primarily only uncles, have all been in some sort of sales capacity, whether it's a financial advisor, a real estate agent. My father was a career salesman, and he sold cars and RVs and motorcycles for his entire life. So it's one of those things I've been around a lot, but never thought it would be the field that I ended up in. And, you know, so here I am 7 years later. I've been doing real estate, is the only job I've done outside of the military.
Oh, good for you, man. I mean,
Yeah.
that I think that's great. You know, making that transition, having a son that did that. I'm giving away my age now, but having a son that did that, I know how difficult it could be. You know, and you were talking about the transitioning from enlisted, you know, to an officer. You're right, that is difficult. You know more than I do how
Yeah.
difficult it is. So to be able to transition to civilian life can be, I don't like calling it a struggle, right? I mean, that makes it sound, you know, bad, but it's a challenge, right? I mean, it's
Definitely. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, my son will tell me people just act differently. You know, the environment is just different, and the
It's
protocols
different.
are
Yeah.
different. The expectation is different. So, yeah, good for you, man. So it sounds like you're doing really well. Obviously, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation if you weren't, you know, you weren't doing well. So you know, let's talk about today then. So we know how you got into the industry, and
Mhm.
obviously have quite a bit of success. It is the Burgman team. So tell me about your team, or who you have. You know, you're not a solopreneur totally. Um, you know, tell me about your team and what you're doing now in the community down in Melbourne.
Yeah, sure. So the team is new as of this year. And
Okay.
as far as like my own intimate personal group that we work together day in, day out. For the last 5 years, so more context, I've been in real estate 7. My first 2 years, I was a single agent at Remax. And then my last 5, I've been with the same larger team. We're still considered a small team. We're less than 20 people on the team. And I'd say 8 of those are all admin. So there's really only 12
Okay.
of us roughly that
Yeah.
sell, but I've been a part of that team for the better part of 5 years. Each year, my production has increased, and each year it's gotten to a point to where my team leaders have been so supportive of my business and are constantly encouraging me to grow in capacities that I never really thought about. So, for example, they were the first ones to encourage me to hire an assistant. At the time when I was like, I don't really want to spend money on something like this, their
Yeah.
take is, the production you're doing, it'll free up time, and you need to find someone to do the minutia that is bogging you down from actually what makes you money. So they encouraged me to hire my first assistant. They encouraged me to bring on a full-time videographer, which I have to this day. And then the next, you know, step in that process was they encouraged me to bring on additional sales members within my tight little circle. As you know, you have some teams that call them buyer's agents.
Yeah.
My sales partners are not just buyer's agents. They represent listings as well. But I initially brought them on as a way to help kind of delegate potential buying clients that come to me. And then I can have my sales partners offer up their calendar and their freedom to show property. So we all work very close together in the order of being able to work with more, but smart and more efficient.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you know, listings and buyers take two different, um, not necessarily skill sets, but I
I
call
think it is. Yeah.
well, those skill sets and time sets, right? I mean, allotted time for listings is a little bit different than allotted time for buyers. So it is good to have a group that can either, I guess, pivot back and forth from both, or you know, if some places like to separate them. But go ahead, you were going to say something about that.
Well, I think listing agent, buyer agents, two completely different skill sets.
Right.
And it's one of those things. early on in my career, and I would bet most agents would feel the same early on in their careers, where they would probably say they enjoy working with buyers more than sellers. When, it's like, you think about it, it's like, oh, it's fun to look at houses and open up doors and write contracts and all the other things we do. But the more you do it, the more you're kind of like, what can I do most efficient with my time? And if you look at it, like most agents could probably work with 5 buyers. I'm kind of being conservative here. 5 buyers at one time, right? Showing
Right.
property, writing contracts, wherever it is. But on the listing side of thing, I think an agent could probably comfortably hold 10 listings, 15 listings, 20 listings, and still have a life and not be completely at the mercy of a buyer's time schedule to show property. So
Yeah.
from an efficiency model, the listing side, much more efficient and scalable from a real estate perspective. So 3-4 years into my career, I focused heavily on listings, knowing that that is where I want to take my career, because there's a saying in real estate, those who have the listings are the ones that win. And in this market too, it's the agents that carry the listings. Maybe they're sitting on the market a little bit longer, but those are the ones that are going to continue through the normalization of the market, and then we'll be much more better on the outside of it.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, yeah, and I couldn't say what you just said because I get yelled at. So I would
I
get
mean,
angry emails. No, I could do both, Tim. I could do both. I could be a listing agent and I could be a buyer's agent, and I would
and
be
I
like,
think,
oh, I wouldn't say that, but go ahead.
and you can. I mean, I
Yeah,
work with buyers now, but I'm much more picky about the buyers I work with,
yeah,
only because I listings I just enjoy a lot more, because I am fascinated with marketing and I'm fascinated with the data and insights, and I can provide all of that to a selling client. And also, like, efficiency is always the first thing on my mind. So thinking about that, I love it. But I will work with buyers, but I'm much more selective about the buyers I work with. And it's not just about the price to me. It's about someone that I actually enjoy spending my time with, whether it's a friend, whether it's a referral of a friend or family, someone that's like, when I go out and we go there, I'm like, they rely and trust on me heavily. And it's also, we have a good time together. The days of me kind of working with a random buyer that I don't really know, I mean, I rarely do that. I will work with buyers that are ready, at such a high level and almost ready to pull the trigger, and
Yeah.
also enjoy spending time with. And that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, I always said, I'm probably getting in trouble for this too. I always said, like, I'm friends with the people I list homes for, right?
Mhm.
Because they're people in my community. They've probably been there a while. They probably know me. They trust me already. Please, can you list my home? Or they're a referral. And then buyers come in from other marketing tentacles, or come in from somewhere else, and generally don't know me. Some do, obviously, people in the community moving in and out. But in Florida, as we know, Shane, with 300,000 people moving in a year, there's a lot of
Mhm.
strangers come through our door.
A
A
lot of
lot of
strangers.
strangers meet us, and that's just a
Mhm.
difficult. I'm sorry, not difficult, but a different skill set of actually getting to know them. And like you said, showing houses, going into houses, things like that. It's just totally different. And I like both, but I know one is a lot, for me, more fulfilling than the other, you know?
Yeah, and I think agents get to a point in their career, and you might have seasoned agents that only want to work with buyers. And that's also like one of the great things about real estate is there's just so many like different things you can do in real estate, and different like niches that you could focus on, only buyers or
Great.
sellers or only military
Yeah.
or whatever it is. Like, it makes it
Yeah.
such an interesting industry. But even before like becoming like, I've always been pretty selective about my clientele, and I don't think enough agents do that, because you see them working with clients and you see them complaining about how bad their life is, or the client that they're working with is just a huge pain in the ass and they're stressing them out and whatever it is. And I think it's because that agent didn't realize, or was too afraid to say, I'm not working with you, because they're only
Yeah.
thinking I'm losing money or leaving money on the table.
Right.
When this dates back 4 years for me, where I made the conscious decision to say, I'm not going to cast this wide net of people I'm going to work with. I'm going to be very selective about the people I work with, and all the people that don't match that, I'm totally cool with saying, we're just not a fit, because I'm only focusing on this lane here.
Yeah.
This is just noise. I want my ideal client avatar in this lane, and that's
Perfect.
all I focus on. Even to this
Yeah.
day, that's all I focus on.
I highly recommend everybody have an avatar, or a persona, depending on who you listen to, what it's called. But yeah, have an avatar of who
Yep,
their ideal client is. I mean, it's
absolutely.
paramount. You did mention something you were talking about, and I'm going to go ahead and jump on it, and it's probably a quick yes no. Um, you work with a lot of transferring military or no?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. Yeah, I think that's very important. A lot of people, a lot of realtors don't even realize that is a vast area that sometimes is overlooked. Even though there's
Mhm.
resources in the military, I'm aware, helping people with that, but there's no reason, especially if you're former military or you served, definitely an area that you want to be a part of. So let's just say I drove up the coast next week, or maybe I'm up there, I'll be in Orlando for the next week, as a matter of fact. And I slid over to Melbourne and we had a beverage on the beach
Mm.
and we're just shooting the breeze, and I said, Shane, you got a nice setup. Everything's going great. Love it here. But I got a magic wand and I can fix any issue you have on an ongoing basis, whether it be time, whether it be more listings, whatever it may be. What would it be that you wish were a little bit different that maybe is out of your control or you're working on?
Specific to real estate?
Yeah. So, okay. Personal life too. Hey, tell me all about it. I'm here for you, Shane. Yeah.
Could open
Specific
up
to
a
real estate.
Pandora's
I mean,
box of a
yeah.
counseling session.
Right? Oh, I mean, yeah. I talk to so many realtors, so many investors, so many people in the industry. There's always something, right?
Mhm.
I wish I had more listings. I wish I had more time. I wish I had more this. I want to grow a bigger team, but I'm kind of hitting a wall. Is there? And you know what, Shane? I've had plenty of people say nothing. Everything's great.
I mean, they're probably lying.
Of course
Of
they are.
course they are. I mean, there's a lot. I think to like make it a simple thing and something that's kind of been on my mind ever since I got into real estate is the entry point into real estate is so easy that it diminishes the quality of agents as a whole. So most people know the 80 to 20 rule, right?
Yes.
20% of agents sell 80% of the inventory. There's a reason for that because there's a
Mhm.
lot of agents that just get a license and don't do anything with it because the barrier of entry is so low. I've always thought that it should be more difficult and more expensive to become a real estate agent because that would automatically do it would weed out the people that should not be representing buyers and sellers with a real estate transaction and also diluting the entire pool of agents.
Right.
And I've also pretty passionate, and I'll probably get a lot of hell for this, but I don't think part-time real estate should be allowed or permitted. It's just not fair. It's not a full service to the client, and I feel like it's a
Yeah.
disservice if anything. And I'm very passionate about those things. And you have agents that I get it. You might have another job and you're doing real estate part-time before you can be full-time. Like that, I completely understand that, but to me, it's still a disservice to a client if you are not a full-time agent. So I guess your magic
Yeah.
wand would say harder to get a license and no part-time.
Yeah. Tougher test, maybe.
I don't even know what the test. I think if it was more expensive, that would turn out a lot
It's
of
a
people, like more
barrier of
expensive for
entry.
dues. And
Yeah.
I'm not even like a proponent of more education. I don't think you need a college degree. You have
See?
agents that are
Yeah.
like, you have to have a degree. Like, I don't find that necessary. I
Right.
think it should be a little bit more challenging to get a license, whether that's a more difficult test or like an intern position for 6 months, a journeymanship into real estate where you don't actually make commission, you make a salary, a baseline salary to make sure you actually can do the job and then make it more expensive to have a license and hold a license.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that onus goes on the brokers themselves, right? I mean, the brokers themselves have to determine who they want to bring into their offices. And I think a lot of brokers, I talk to brokers all over the United States, or agents and brokers all over the United States, and sometimes they just want to bring bodies in. And I think the
Yeah.
oversight all of a sudden just goes to,
Well, as
up
soon
and
as
down.
the brokerage model changed, and there's very large brokerages that everyone knows, as soon as the model changes from quantity or from quality to quantity,
Quantity, yeah.
everything changes in real estate. So now people are more incentivized to bring on an agent within their downline because they're going to get paid on whether this person sells 1 million or 20 million. And they don't really, for the most part, give a hell about the quality of that agent because they just want to build the biggest downline they can because of the
Right.
nature of the model of that business.
Yeah.
It works for some. It's not something that I think is good for the entire real estate industry because I think it, again, dilutes the quality of professional within the greater world of real estate.
Yeah. I
And I'll probably get shit for that too.
Yeah, we probably both will. So
Which is
it's
okay. I mean,
though.
I'm a
Hey,
very candid, blunt, to the point
yeah,
guy.
yeah. What do they say? There's no such thing as bad publicity, you know. Let's talk crap about everybody. No, I'm kidding. I'm
Yeah, I
kidding.
mean, but I'm
If
a
you're
like a
everyone,
straight
you're allowed
shooter.
to have, yeah, I mean, we're allowed to have our opinions. So, you know, and that's what it's all about. And I don't disagree with you. I mean, it just, like I said, first thing I said was more difficult exam. That's my opinion coming from someone where I have a lot of certifications and a lot of other things that were all more difficult than the real estate exam. And yet
Yeah,
it's the most expensive purchase people will make in their whole life.
or multiple times too. And
Multiple times at
it's
that.
crazy. Yeah, no, it's, I mean, it's crazy. So
It is crazy for sure. So let's talk about the future. Let's put our prognostication hats on a little bit
Mhm.
here and say, okay, what's the next 1-3 years look like for Shane and the Burgman Group? And, you know, give me some expectations and some goals over the next few years.
I mean, next year, our team has already been planning as far as what we're going to do. And when I say our team and my intimate team of, there's 3 of us that sell. I have a full-time assistant, full-time videographer, and then bringing on marketing and video. So that's my big thing for next year. I want to bring on a second full-time videographer and then a full-time marketing gal or guy for our team exclusively. I like maintaining the high caliber of agents that I have working directly with me. The Carpenter Castle team is very exclusive and also very high caliber. I just wanted a more specific, kind of team that I'm building out here. As far as growth on the team, completely happy with where we're at now. If the right person or persons present themselves, we would grow, but that's not really a major focus for me going into the next year. The next year is really more about honing our marketing skills,
Nice.
maximizing our listing opportunities, and then also, working on even deeper brand campaigns that do not include social media.
Nice. Well, at the end of this podcast, stay on with me for about a minute. We'll talk about that a little bit more too. So, we're winding down a little bit. How would someone get in touch with you, Shane?
So I have my own website, theburgmangroup.com. I think that if you Googled my name, I'm also on Google. And then social media is, if we're going to go the social route, it's going to be probably Instagram or YouTube. I'm most active on both, but all of my social handles are just at Shane Burgman. If you go to my Instagram, you'll see kind of the creative approach we make into whether it's listing videos or just videos in general. It really kind of, I think, demonstrates my personality and my sense of humor. And then YouTube, we're a little bit different on there, but again, both accounts are growing in size, and it's one of those things that has been a good proponent for business. But if you want to get a hold of me, just find me on social, DM me, and I will be the one responding.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, Shane, we're at that point in the show where I always allow, you to take us out and basically make a statement, say what you need to, take the last 1-2 minutes and really say whatever's on your mind, your heart, your soul, whatever you're feeling at the time. It could be about business, it could be about your family, it could be about the great beaches. It's up to you, but go ahead and take us out.
Yeah. Something that's always at the forefront of my thinking with everything I do is about time and how we have a finite amount of it. And I think real estate, if you're an agent and you're not critical of the time that you have, I think you're making a mistake. And the time could be anything about what your daily schedule looks like, the clients you work with, the hours at the day in which you're working with. And I would just encourage agents that are watching this to be courageous enough to, draw barriers within your time schedule to dedicate to real estate, and then don't do it outside of those hours and focus on your family, focus on yourself, focus on other things that make you a more rounded and less stressed human, because that's going to be more helpful going into the future of life and sustainability. And that's why I think the turnover rate in real estate is so high, because most agents don't have control of their schedules because they're very reactive. So the moment that you be on the offense of your time and you control it and you respect it, the moment your real estate career really becomes more than a stressful job. It becomes something that you love to do and really enjoy to do, and then also make you a much happier and positive person.
Yeah, that's great sage advice, Shane. I love it. I love it. Shane Burgman, the Burgman Group, Carpenter Castle, the Space Coast, Melbourne, Florida. Check it out. Shane, thanks so much for being on the program. I really enjoyed the conversation. Great story. I look forward to catching up with you over the next 3, 6, 9 months, and maybe I will come up there and we'll sit on the beach and reminisce a little bit. Thanks for being on the show, buddy.
Thanks for your time. I appreciate you.
All right, Shane.